Recording is in progress. Good evening, y'all. This is Platoon. Evenings and weekends. We're on week 15, day 2. We're going to be creating nested objects with DRF. We could have ended on week 14 if we super wanted to, but Django REST Framework is sick, and nesting objects in it can be a little tricky. The full-time course, in fact, deems much of this unnecessary. I deem it very necessary. I don't think it's straightforward enough. That's why we're going to cover it. And more Django is always better. Can't get enough of this stuff. Want you to be comfortable when you start trying to run with it on your own. So our topics covered, our learning objectives, Sean and Kim. Was it Kim? I forget who else wanted it. Understanding the create operations in DRF. Overriding the serializers create method. Implementing view for create operations and nested objects. Seems good to me. We'll go into why we need to do this. And this should look self-explanatory. Hopefully, we're just working with models. We're just using Python to work with models. That's it. If you're creative enough, you can probably get here on your own, but we're going to show you the Platoon approved way to set up your views and serializers. For this example, we're going to be using this branch here of the Pokemon app. So let's go get it. No, don't do that. I need to get rid of that. Clone this down. Am I where I think I am? I am. I never felt claustrophobic about my terminal until someone at work the other day said, "Oh, I hate that terminal. It makes me feel claustrophobic." Now I'm like, ugh. Now it feels like my tongue is something I can feel in my mouth, and I can't stop looking at this terminal and getting annoyed by it. All right, check out. We want to pull that one down, which is just nested views 1. All right, we in it. Let me make sure everything's the way I expect. Good, good, good. All right, create virtual environment. Pip install those requirements. Hopefully, have no issues with this. Lovely. Oh, I know what just happened. I need to start my database. Please don't let that cause me issues. Not a big deal if so, I just need to. Let's do that again. All right. Sweet. Let's see if this runs. Looks good to me. This app is up and running as we expect it to be. On day 2, we're going to work on the create operation as we talked about. All pretty self-explanatory. So in DRF, the create operation, as you know, is a post. When creating a new object, the process typically involves receiving data from a client, validating this data, and then saving it to the database. Generally, a post has to have a body, probably. Something, right? I mean, not necessarily, but generally, when you're adding new information, you have to send some kind of packet, right? Some kind of data. So generally, posts going to have JSON associated. We're already expecting that, so that's what we're going to build out. The default create method provided by DRF's model serializer works well for non-nested serializers. This is a fact. It works great. As soon as you start trying to make it work with nested stuff, you're going to run into all kinds of issues. So what we're going to have to do, if you so choose to use the Django REST framework and have nested models, which you're not always going to, if your databases, data types are more simple than that, or just don't require this, you won't have to do this. But nested CRUD is pretty common. This is how we're going to override it. I'm not going to get too smart with this and just kind of paste and then remove what we need. But within the Pokemon app, I'm getting lost. Serializers. There we go. This is what the new stuff needs to look like. All we're adding is the move models. And a very important piece that I stumbled over when I was getting ready is we are making sure we have this capture field added to our fields. So all that. This is all it is. Create is going to take in some validated data. It is going to be a Pokemon object. We've been fiddling with this for a while. We generally know what Pokemon are. They have, these fields. And then this many field of moves. Oh, these notes drive me insane. These are your moves. I just get it all across. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pull out the moves field, make it its own thing. Then we're going to create the Pokemon. And then within the moves field, we're going to iterate through the moves and add them, create them and then add them to the Pokemon. That's how we're going to manage this many-to-many relationship. Pokemon's going to be created first. And any of the moves that we get, we are going to create them and then add them to this Pokemon. And then we're going to return Pokemon. That's what the serializer will do. Nothing too crazy. If we look at what we kind of want to do in the end, this makes a lot of sense, right? Let's get that away so I'm not full of it. This validated data is going to look a lot like this. We got our name, our capture status, and our moves. We're going to iterate through the moves. It is a list. This makes sense to everyone. This is fairly cut and dry Python, but we can dive into this if we want. What are these things, Daryl?
I think they're called quargs.
What do they do?
I think they allow for like dynamic arguments.
That's a pretty good explanation,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, yeah, generally you are going to be creating this move object. You're going to be using the, basically you're saying, hey, I expect you're going to receive some keyword arguments. You're receiving a dictionary or, JSON, but it'll be a dictionary. Use that, use its keys, match it to the keys of the thing that I'm, offering you, or rather my object that I've stood up, my model, and just line them up. Ideally, they should line up. This isn't what's doing the validation of that. This is just saying they should be lined up. We'll line them up. So we don't have to go in at this level and say, hey, name is equal to name, level is equal to level, capture is equal to capture, moves is moves. This is doing it for us. That's all that is. That's just shorthand saying, hey, this level, when you look at Pokemon, just find the one that says level, do that for us. And then anything that comes after, well, level is a bad example. It's not required. But the name, use the name for the model name. That's all. some people struggle with it because it looks a little weird and they'd rather just see it all written out, and that's fine. If quarks scare you, I can explain it more. But do yourself a favor, get an understanding of accepting keyword arguments and mapping them. It saves you a lot of space. This is a lot cleaner than being extremely not dry, right? All right. Our serializer's ready. We just had to do the view. All right. So let's look at all this. Oh my goodness, all these comments drive me nuts. They're great comments, but I'm not going to be looking at all this. Command Shift K. Lovely. All right, what all am I going to paste over? Pretty much everything. Oh, I didn't quite get it all. Some of this will be, we only want to do this to the all Pokemon class here. Selected Pokemon, we're not touching that right now. Let's just blast it all and talk about it. I don't like posting a ton of code without, I don't like posting a ton of code without understanding it. As we said, though, this is fairly standard Python. So Eunice, I haven't talked to you in a while. Would you like to talk through these two functions? Eunice?
Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you run us through all this junk I just pasted? Primarily, I'm more interested in the post, but just so we get into it, can you tell me what this function is doing in our view for this all Pokemon class here?
Yeah, so the get class or method is basically taking returning all the Pokemons ordered by name.
That is correct. So pull them all out. Pokemons is going to be Pokemon objects, basically getting them all, everything that's there, and then you're right, ordering them by name. Serializer will use this Pokemon serializer that we pulled in, which we had earlier. And we're going to return the serialized data. This is going to give us the list of Pokemon serialized order by name. Can you take a stab at this one?
Yeah, so it takes the whatever that's inputted by the user, and it's like checking to see if it's valid, and then like creating a new Pokemon object.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then returning like if it's valid, then returning the data itself in a serialized form, and if not, then it'll spit a 400 error.
exactly. Yeah, and this is kind of Django working around try-catch statements, raise exceptions, and whatnot. This is going to be more server level errors than Python, exception errors, which we like better. These are easier to capture. These are going to be coming straight into the standard out of Django. It's really good as you grow through Python to have a lot of exceptions written, have a lot of try-catch statements. When we're working in Django, as much as we can rely on these status updates and messages being returned, we'd like to do that. We don't really talk a lot about logging in Code Platoon, but logs can sure be easy to capture when they are just being outputted standard out to this terminal here, right? It would not be a big deal to rig up everything that prints in this terminal to a log file, and then we would have logs to go back through. That can be really helpful because, you know, when you got something up, when it's deployed, people are using it, and you're not watching it all the time. Nobody is going to be, I mean, that would be a really bad job. I'm surely nobody is sitting and watching servers running. Generally, we know if there's a problem. We timestamp everything that happens. We can go look at the logs, figure out when something happened, get the output, read it through here. That's what all, this is facilitating that. It may feel like a lot of hoopla to some of y'all. As much output for statuses as we can get, as much standard out as we can get, as many exceptions as we can catch to get in the logs, the better. Applications, that are running for long periods of time, logs are vital to catch because you're not always going to be standing there waiting to catch it, right? You're not going to be the only person running it. That's that. That's a tangent, but I like to talk about it because y'all probably haven't really considered logs for apps before, and we're really not going to get into that right now, but be thinking. This view class will automatically use our Pokemon serializer to handle a post request. It will validate the data. Call the create method to save the data to the database, return JSON representation of the new Pokemon. Takeaway from this, I want us to understand line by line what is going on here. We are using the serializer, this one here, to pull in this body, this JSON object, toss it against our models. If it's good, we return the serialized object, basically, the representation of the JSON. I know we blasted through it quick, and it looks like simple enough Python, but this is great to start with if you want to create DRF models. Like I said, full-time course doesn't show this. It might seem like a small thing. It might seem like this is a weird single lecture to spend this on. People struggle with trying to get all the pieces and parts working together. So we like to show that off. Assuming I've done everything, you bark at me, ma'am. Assuming I've done everything properly, I should be able to hit this endpoint. I've talked about Insomnia before. I actually have it running properly, so I'm going to show that off. Remember, Postman is generally what we teach. You can use a curl. You can use anything you want to hit this endpoint. I am only showing this off because I like it, and generally students like it. So here's another tool. I think it's a little bit more straightforward than Postman for those of you who are, overwhelmed by the many, many things that Postman does. Insomnia pretty much scratches all the same itches. It's just got a nicer UI, in my opinion. This is opinionated Jordan time. I think Insomnia's got a nicer UI than Postman. Generally, when you create it, this is what it looks like. You create new projects here, and then if you wanted to add a new document, new files, that's basically what this is. This can all be saved and Git. You can associate this with a repository, the big YAML file. You don't have to do that. It can all just live here for testing and playing with. I created a smoke test. All this does is hit this endpoint and failed earlier. Let's try it now. Looks good to me. 200. I want to create a post to this endpoint. Let's try that out. This is my list of calls. All I need to do is hit this lovely little plus sign. I could create a folder to put them in, or I could just create the request myself. And defaults new request, update the name. This should look and feel a lot like VS Code because it is also built with the same tools. Chrome, right? Pretty sure. I think it's Electron? Nah, I'm talking about my butt. I need to double check that. It's the same thing. Let's call this create nested Pokemons. And the endpoint right here. Easy peasy. Post. oops, if we so choose, content type application JSON, that's telling us the header. I think there's drop down easy peasy options for that. I need to select now. This should be fine. It's accepting all. So the body, we just need to decide what kind. And I love all these different options, but we're using JSON today. We teach JSON. Copy that. Paste it in there. It can beautify your JSON if you want it to. I mean, that's it. Now I can go and look at something else, do whatever, or I can fire it off. You can even do some other silly things. Download or send a download, repeat on interval, yada, yada, run on some kind of delay, or just send. And here is your response. Probably work more like this. But you can have some pretty complex JSON laying up here, and you get your response right then and there. Iterate, or sorry, you can walk through the headers, anything else you want, console. But that's that. ID 1, 1, 1, 2. What happens if I fire it off again, y'all? Here's the next one. ID 2, 3, 4. So this is really going to the database, hitting it. Oh, sorry. This is going to my running server, hitting the database, putting it in, pulling it out, and getting the object that was created. I would expect to see something going on in my server. Yeah, look at there. It is. It is getting hit. And that should be roughly the same output we're getting sent. Well, that should be what we're getting returned back, because we are just returning the serialized data. Questions, comments, concerns? Your sisters.
What was that software platform you were using? I didn't see it.
Something we all know and love, Insomnia.
Insomnia. Okay.
Mhm. Easy to remember. You get a full-time remote job where you work on a computer all day and play video games, you will have this. You sure will. I like it. You don't have to use it. Don't use it because Jordan uses it. I'm not going to defend it if you use it and you think it's garbage. I just like it. I also don't stand up very complex API testing. It needs to be ran, at different levels and get really, really deep into the APIs. This is more of a layman's tool, and I use it as such. I've used it for projects before. It has not failed me. I've never needed more than this. Platoon talks about Postman because it's kind of the industry standard. But it's really complex. I always feel odd showing it to y'all because there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff going on, and I just don't love the UI. This one has even gotten more complicated. It used to be super dumbed down, but they've added a lot of features to Insomnia. But I still show it off. I think it looks clean. I think it's easy to understand. All your stuff right here. If I were to be building an app, I would probably, and I wanted to test it with this, I would create a folder called like Pokemon calls. And all my calls to do Pokemon stuff goes, get in there. Get in there. Oh, did they change that? All right, I'm not gonna. Pet feature's gone. Evidently, you have to direct it in there somehow. You can slap all those calls inside those folders, I guarantee you. They might need to be created within there. I forget, but you used to be able to drag and drop real easy. Don't worry about that. Use Insomnia if you would like. Use Postman if you would like. Just use regular old curls if you would like. Use the DRF interaction UI if you would like. The world is your oyster. I'm not going to test you on your ability to use any of these things, but what works for you is good. As long as you have a way to hit your APIs and test them, I'm down. I would love to show off Swagger, but that's a whole different thing. Anyone, anything? I read chat in a while. Sweet.